Yeah. Originally, the idea from the village community was a couple of big stones to be a gateway to mark the entrance to the village. But then Charles Jenks, polymath, thinker, writer, and landscape architectural creator, happened by, and it all changed. He took a quick look at that hill up there and realized where the source of rock was, and that the hill was special because it was formed from crystals of rock. Crystals, an ordered state arising from nature's self-organization and arising from chaos. That hill, 140 million years ago or so, was lying relatively peacefully on its own on its own tectonic plate, but about to become active, but not as a hill, but rather under a shallow sea, much nearer the equator than today. The plate became active and molten magma from deep in the Earth's crust forced its way upwards in a volcanic surge, and the lava flowed into the water under the sea, spreading out, so the combination of just the right pressure and temperature, the Goldilocks rule, enabled the rapid crystallization of the basalt lava. Over many, many, many years, the plate drifted around, but progressively northwards, sometimes covered by sea, sometimes not, then covered by ice, which removed all the sediments, covering the rock crystals, till today they are exposed. Jenks saw all this in a flash, and an idea came to him to create a landscape illustration of these enormous concepts and forces in a way which ordinary people could participate, gaining understanding and insight thereby, and being able to pause and reflect on the great issues of life in a universe which humanity has started to factually understand, enabling the casting off of superstition, magic, and man-invented beliefs. In turn, all over the focus on the remaining mysteries, which are still unknown, inevitably putting man back into appreciating their role within the perspective of the enormity of the universe. The story's progress is in 4 parts. Here we are at the very beginning. This is chaos. Rocks arranged in a jiggledy-piggledy fashion, which curiously led to a very early form of defensive system, which later on was given the grand name of a chevaux de frise. Let's walk through it. Come on, birds. And here, there's a little plaque telling you a little bit about what I've already described. Moving on. We now move towards the second node, which, as you can see, is some 30 or 40 yards up. It was called by Jenks the Cliffs of Cuboids. A violent juxtaposition, he explained, between the chaos of molten flow and the beginning of crystal organization. Pausing to think about entropy. Entropy is really describing the loss of energy in the universal system, which means at the end of the time, when energy is all gone, there will be nothing. One of the delights of this set of rocks coming up are the two holes that you can see, which miners on one side, the first one, built so that they could put explosive in it. And Jenks was so excited that he wanted another hole put on the other side. They don't point at anything in particular, but they're jolly. The massive crystal led to by the cuboids. And about 3 or 4 weeks before he died, he wrote a poem, as you can see up there, and which will be read.
Basalt Mother Stone. Once upon a stone there was a time, and she lived ugly and dark, deep beneath the ocean crust, all black basalt, rising and falling as a prison beast. Her boiling temper floated clouds above the continents resting on her back, hot air rising, angry crowds. She broke through these buoyant lands, Egypt, Greece and Athens to the north, lily-white rocks, her better selves, floating as complacent stones, marble, granite and some schists, all reliant on her bones. She shattered through the pallid locks. Look at me, freeloading rocks, my coiling, spitting lava flows, rising pipes in perfect forms, triangle, cube and decagon. Eat my polygons, you smugs, you can't erect my hexagons. Basalt, O sweet and mighty sound of earth, first maternal rock in Genesis, arising from recycled death. Beauty itself, recycled melancholic sound, been around for boring billions. The parasitic whites were undeterred. Oh, loathsome, damnable, dark obdurate, brooding rock, unpropitious in your angry moods, making grown men jump off Arthur's seat. Old Riki smelt itself from your brown dust. Brutalists, poor sods, love thy stony silence. And thus they battled through the light, the fine-grained black and lustrous white. They fought amidst the apple green, the rainforest that lay between. Two hells of loud Aztec, screaming to be heard. Throughout Elysium, they pylon mess and choking wire, proud madam fought aground in the absurd.
Jenks, 3 or 4 weeks before he died. And this is his last piece of work that we think he ever... We're here at the halfway point. Behind us is chaos, and we're going towards order. And on one of these bits of crystal has been written another phrase which came from Jenks. Basalt, the mother of surprisingly all rocks, makes them rise. Catch some water, makes a bit wet on your bum if you're sitting on it.
Surprise, indeed.
He sees this next set of rocks, which is the third set, as really being, in musical terms, a recapitulation of the first theme of chaos, except in a more organized and ordered way, as you might get when you come to recapitulate a theme in a musical piece. He was a musician as well, and his father was one of America's foremost modern musicians between the wars. Particularly interesting here is these two stones in front of you. As you come closer, you will see that this was once one rock. On the left was the piece which came off the piece on the rock on the right, which happened when that stone was being put in place. Fortunately, the people erecting it were out of the way at the time. But within it, therefore, you can see the impurities which have caused it to fragment, which demonstrates in the end of the day that whatever is created by nature will subsequently fail under the auspices of nature. And now we finally move towards the end. But pausing first on this little bench to look at the words which we see up here. These basalt rock materials are sourced from the local outcrops at Kames and Ravelrick Hills, which we saw at the very beginning, which were simply kindly donated to the Charles Jenks Works by the Dalmahoy Estate and Tarmac. They are a representative symbol and an example of the self-organizing universe. The arrow of time dictates that entropy increases, but simply this means that everything tends towards chaos. Heat flows from hot to cold. The universe that we understand expands and cools, yet nature shows that this entropic process is not always one way up. Life is the best example of this reversal of entropy, although it ultimately contributes to an overall increase in entropy. The formation of columnar jointed basalt, like the crystallization of snowflakes or the spontaneous folding of proteins, is an example of the self-organizing universe. This volcanic rock material was extruded from the Earth's molten magma around 230 million years ago, he said, not my 140. And by cooling at just the correct speed, the Goldilocks rate, it formed into solid columns that we see here today. We now move on to the final node. So this is order, but it is romantic order in a funny way. The two big end stones, the most enormous crystals, sort of tilt towards each other. That could be romanticism, or it just could be tilting in the knowledge that they knew where they came from. But this is the final state. This is order organized by nature. But looking back, you can see on the right and on the left and in the far distance all human activity. Pylons, train lines, roads, people, fences, and in the middle of it, this spine of nature and vast ancient histories for which only human beings, as we understand it at the moment, understand that that's what it was. So this is a reflection for us all to think about, I suppose. That's what Jenks intended. But mostly it's used by people in the village to take their dogs for a walk and their children for a walk. A quick one. To that end, particularly in these latter days of lockdown and COVID, it's been used dramatically by the local people who have come to take a pride in it being here.